Quilty friends, welcome to the first video in a series of 5 videos about how to make the snowman quilt that's behind me and this pillow. My name is Martha and I'm with Bee Quilting. So if you ordered this kit from Bee Quilting, you will notice that everything is pre-cut for you. The only thing that is not pre-cut are the eyes and noses, and that's so you have some ways to customize the quilt and make it your own a little bit. Okay, today we'll be addressing what is in pack number 1. It says step number 1, and this is what is in here is 45 5-inch squares. Okay, there's 9 different ones because you're going to create 9 patch blocks, which you can see behind me, the 9 patch blocks. Okay, if you look at my quilt carefully, you'll notice that I only had 8 different fabrics, so one fabric is repeated in each block. That seemed a little confusing, so I decided just to add another fabric, so you have 9 different ones. So each of your blocks can have 9 different fabrics in them. Well, how you construct it or how you put it together is up to you. You can do them all the same or you can do them randomly. I don't think it's going to make any difference because you can turn the blocks after they're done to get different effects. So how you decide to put them together is completely up to you. Okay, but what we're going to talk about today is the actual process of putting them together. Once you lay them out, which I have mine laid out here on the table, then you're going to sew 3 blocks together into 3 rows, and then you'll sew the 3 rows together. So I have 2 of them already sewn together, and I'm going to sew this one together for you and then show you how to put these together to make your 9 patch. Now, the biggest and most important thing that I can stress to you is to keep your raw edges together when you sew and to sew with exactly 1/4 inch seam allowances, because you want to end up with 5 9-patch blocks that measure 14 inches because the snowman blocks measure 14 inches. So they all have to come together, so you want these 9-patch to measure 14 inches when you're done. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to put these together. And this one is a design, and if you notice in mine, I actually turned it. Sometimes it's this way, sometimes it's this way. So don't worry about it. It actually makes it more interesting, I think, if the snowflakes go both ways. Okay, so I'm going to put these together, and I'm going to use black thread now, and then later you may want to change to white thread. Okay, but right now, since all of these are very dark, I'm going to use black thread. Okay, on my machine, I have my 1/4 inch foot. If you don't have a 1/4 inch foot, then I'm sure you've already figured out how to make an exact 1/4 inch seam allowance. If you haven't, then you'll have to figure out what line you need to make your fabric edge go on in order to make a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And on this machine, it actually, when you put the 1/4 inch foot on, you use a code of 06 and it sets it up for piecing at a 1/4 inch. And notice that your stitch length is short, it's 1.8. And when piecing, that's what you want, is a short stitch length. Okay, it's important that I keep my raw edges together and that I keep the raw edges butted up against the guide on my 1/4 inch foot. Okay, so I'm going to sew, not really quickly because I want to make sure that everything is lining up. Okay, and now I'm going to sew this piece here. And again, I want my raw edges together. And I want to be right up against that 1/4 inch guide. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is press. And I always press just like I sewed it, so that I shrink the edges and make my stitches lay nice and flat. Get rid of threads. Okay, and I always press the seams open first before I press them one way or the other. Sometimes I leave them pressed open, but in this case we are going to press them one direction because we want them in order to get them to go together with these other pieces. We want them to nest. Okay, so now we're going to look, and if you notice on this piece I have the seams going that way. And on this piece, I have the seams going toward me. So on this piece that's going to go on the top, I'm going to have the seams going away from me. Now I'm going to check on the other side and make sure everything is laying nice and flat. Because pressing can be just as important, because if you don't press everything flat, and you sew in a fold, that can distort your seam allowances as well. Okay, so now these seams go that way, these seams go this way, these seams go that way. So I'm going to sew these two together, and this seam is going that way, this seam is going the other way. So they will almost like lock together, and that's called nesting. And you can almost feel it more than you can see it. You can feel that they've slipped right together. So now I'm going to get my raw edges together. You want to get that thread? Oh.
No, I want to, there you go. See how you can
see
the two seams going up together.
Okay. And now I'm going to sew this. Okay, and I'm feeling to make sure they stayed together, and I also want to be sure that they're laying the way I pressed them. Okay, if it wasn't, I would stop before I got there and adjust it. Now I'm going to do the same thing here, make these nest together, keep my raw edges together, and I'm going to sew to the next seam. I want my raw edges together. And I want to be up against that guide. Okay, let's see how we did. Okay, we have nice, everything came together very nicely there. Okay, now I'm going to put this one on the bottom. And again, this seam's coming toward me. This seam's going away from me. So now I'm going to make them nest together. Okay, and I feel to make sure, and it feels good. So get my raw edges together. And I'm going to put this on the sewing machine. All right. And see, this is going together very quickly because all the cutting is already done. So all you have to do is figure out how you want them to go together and make them do that. Okay, almost done.
And you're not going to backstitch at the end of this, are you?
No, I'm not going to backstitch at the end of this, because all of these seams are going to be crossed over with another seam, either putting it together with the snowman blocks or with the border. Okay? All right, that's looking really good. So now we're going to press this. And again, press it just like you sewed it. Okay. And now I'm going to press it open, and I'm going to leave it pressed open for now, because when I go to sew it together with the snowman blocks, then if I decide that these need to go the other way, I can do that. Stop my other pressing. Okay. Okay, and flip it over, make sure everything's laying flat. And there you have your first 9-patch block. Okay, you make 4 more of these, and then on the next, when you have those all 5 made, then come back and look for the next video, video number 2, which will show you how to construct the snowman face blocks. Okay, good luck and enjoy.